plaster in this area has had 24 hours to dry, still not completely dry. But what I can do now is I'm going to paint the track. You see where I stopped there. I'm going to start here. I'm going to pick up this turnout. I'm not going to paint here because I'm going to have a crossing somewhere in here and I don't know where it is. So I'm going to paint the rest of this track in this curve. I'm going to paint the track with this flat earth brown. And I have everything taped off. So I'll go ahead and spray the track. I'll paint it back to here. I have 2 pieces of cork road bed that I will use to clean the paint off the top of the rails. The track has been painted. You can see using the pieces of cork road bed, it does a really good job of cleaning the top of the rails. And you want to get on that as soon as possible. You don't want to allow the paint to dry. And if you get it while the paint is still wet, it cleans up really nice. And here I have the areas covered where there needs to be electrical contact. And I can come in and touch that up with a brush in the future. I've entered the cartoon stage. You can see where these really vivid colors. These are the base colors that we'll work on from here. And, you know, with my method, everybody has their own way, but this is how I do it. And retaining wall. I grabbed some rocks out of my yard. I glued those in place, painted them with the base yellow. Same here. Some rocks from the yard. Painted them with the base colors. I have some colors on the granite. Obviously it doesn't look too good right now, but it'll get some more work. The base color's been on the rocks for about 12 hours. So now I'm going to apply the wash. If you've watched my earlier videos on painting my rocks, you'll know that the wash pretty much obliterates this base color. But this base yellow has to be put down before the wash because I can't apply the wash over bare plaster. So even though the wash pretty much wipes out this base color, the base color has to be put down first. When applying the wash, I want to be a little bit careful when I'm applying it up against the backdrop. So I don't want the wash wicking in behind the wax paper. So I want to be careful. And there's some spots here from applying the plaster where I may have worn through the wax paper. So I'm going to be a little bit careful. And I want to make sure I get all of the rock surface covered, because I want all of the little cracks and crevices in these castings to be highlighted by this wash. I have the dark wash applied, so I'll let this dry for a few hours. And I'll come back later and paint right over the top of it. The wash is dry for several hours. So now I'm going to put on what I'm calling my base highlight color. I'm going to use this brush and I'm going to use what I'm calling a wet dry brush. Meaning I'm going to get paint in this brush, but there won't be so much paint that when I apply the brush to the rocks, paint will not run out of the bristles. So I want to cover the surface of the rock, but I don't want any paint getting down into the recesses where the wash is. I painted the rocks with the highlight color. Now if you look here, you can see the base color. Obviously the wash is pretty much everywhere since it's highlighted all the cracks and crevices. And now we have the highlight color. So we have 3 layers of color already. Now I'll want to paint in the red bands. So I'll continue this here. And I have the light red and then the orange. I have the first red color applied. And you can see already with just one color how the rocks are starting to come to life. The second band of color has been applied. I'm going to pick it up here. Got the darker red below, lighter red above. And now I'm going to apply the last color, and this is the orange color to represent this. So that'll be applied primarily vertical. And when applying this third red color, I'll just call it orange, in some places I'll just blot it on. In others I'll do a fairly opaque layer. So blot it on, probably in a lot of areas, and then have a few more opaque streaks. Now this paint is really thin, and that's, so I want the color beneath to come through. The rocks are starting to come together, so I put down the base color, dark yellow. Then I applied the dark wash. I applied the highlight tan color, and I've applied 3 colors of red. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply the first dry brush color, and that is going to be a tan color in between these 2 colors, because what I want to do now is harmonize everything. So I lightly brush the surface, and you can see how it's picking up the details. And what it's also going to do is blend the colors together. I have the final dry brush applied, so the rocks for the right side of North Canyon are painted. Getting ready to put an ink wash on my retaining wall. I'm using India ink, and I'll mix it with water and take my brush and apply the ink wash to the retaining wall. I have some water right here on my palette, so I'm going to take some of this India ink and 2, 3 drops ink. So now I'm going to take my ink wash and just apply it to the retaining wall. And I want to brush the ink wash downwards in a direction of gravity. I'm not concerned about having a uniform, even coat applied. I don't really care about that. But I want to have my streaks vertical. And you can see these streaks are not perfectly vertical, but I can correct those. And I'm not concerned at all about how uniform the wash is. The main thing is make sure it's vertical. And I don't want it pooling, so I want to make sure these areas here don't pool, so I'll keep an eye on those. I have the India ink applied to the retaining wall. Now this wall will get some additional work once I start putting the greenery in. But I'm going to call it good for now. I've got the stones painted on the abutments and the pillar and the retaining wall, and it looks outrageous. It looks absolutely outrageous. I'll let this dry, well, maybe an hour, 2 hours, and then I'll start the dry brushing. I'm going to start dry brushing my bridge abutments and these retaining walls and all this stuff down here in the canyon. I mean, obviously, that looks ridiculous. We're going to tone it all down. So I'm going to take this gray and white acrylic craft paint, mix it up in my little tin here. Now these are from Walmart little pies. And so when I have a tasty treat, I save the pie tin, and it's great for mixing paint. Alright, I have a light gray color mixed up. Take my brush, get some paint in it. Now I'm going to take a paper towel and get most of that paint out. Almost all the paint. As much paint as I can get out of the brush, I want out. So you can see here, wiping the brush on the paper towel. Okay, I think I'm in good shape now. I want to start with pretty light strokes, make sure I don't have too much paint in the brush. You know, I can always add more paint, but it's hard to take it out. And this first dry brush, just go in all directions. And I want to knock those colors down a little bit. I had the dry brushing done on my bridge abutments. I ended up using 3 colors when dry brushing the stone. And I've tried to get the stone to look similar to the retaining wall I did over here. I have reached the point where I can start putting down some dirt. I'm going to apply dirt all the way down to the lift out section because I want to ballast my track all the way down to the lift out section. I'll probably just have like maybe a couple inches of dirt to the side of the track because I don't know what's going in here yet. The process for applying the dirt is pretty simple. I'll take some white glue, put it in my Walmart pie tin, take my cheap brush, spread full strength glue onto the plaster cloth, and then just sprinkle on dirt. It's that easy. I've taped off the track all the way back to the lift out section. You can see I've drawn a line on the inside of the city track. So I'll stop the dirt there because I just don't know how this is all going to lay out. So I want to get this full strength white glue in place, and I'll sprinkle on my dirt. All right, I think that's good enough for a start. I'll take my dirt, sprinkle it on my glue. It does make a mess. All right. Push that down into the glue. All right, got the first bit done. We can move on. I have the dirt applied to the top of the hill and to the track area. And I have the dirt applied all the way to the lift out section. So I'm going to let this full strength white glue, I'm going to let it dry for a few hours, and then I'll try to gather up the loose dirt, recover it, and get ready to apply scenic glue. I've swept up the excess dirt, and now what I'm going to do is start applying the scenic glue. I'll take some 70% isopropyl. I'll use one of these 2 pipettes, and I'll saturate a section of the dirt, and I don't want to get too big of an area saturated because alcohol evaporates pretty quickly. So I'll do maybe a 6-inch square section, saturate it with alcohol, and then apply the scenic glue also with a pipette. Now the scenic glue is white glue, approximately 25% white glue. The rest is water and a couple good squirts of dish soap. And the dish soap is for breaking the surface tension. That way the glue can bond to the dirt. Well, I have the scenic glue applied, and I'll have to do some touch-ups after everything dries. Now this is not a real quick process. It's still wet down there, and it's almost dry up here. So I'll let this dry all day and then touch it up where it needs to be touched up. Well, the dirt is all locked down with scenic glue, and I did my touch-ups. It seems like there's always a couple spots that need to be fixed. That's all done. And I have my wax paper down. So you kind of get an idea what the canyon's going to look like. This video is getting long, so I'm going to stop here. So I hope you come back for part 4 of the canyon and paint the track, get the ballast down, and then maybe try to get a little bit of work done in the bottom of the canyon. Thanks again for watching.